Welcome back to another episode of Spilling the Tea with the Henna guys. You already know where we're going with this, so let's dive right into it. I stumbled across this video and I was like, I'm gonna put this on my list and do this. So, because I was very curious on her video. So her name is Sarah Olson and her title is Dyeing My Hair with Henna. So I'm gonna link it down below like I usually do. And so we're going to get right to it.
Today's video, I'm showing you guys how I have dyed my hair with henna. I have my hood up for the intro of this video because I didn't want to give it away, but I promise you'll see it at the end. Just stay tuned. Just stick with me, please. I have been dyeing my hair with henna on and off for like the past, oh my gosh, almost 3 years now at this point. The reason I first started doing it was because I was looking for a healthier alternative to hair dye, and because I really wanted like gingery red hair. So obviously I hopped on over to YouTube, did a quick little search, and found quite a few tutorials of people dyeing their hair with henna, and I pretty much instantly fell in love with it, except for the very first time I used it. Everyone that uses henna will know that you go through this stage called the orange panic, which is when you first dye your hair with henna, and it's that like obnoxiously bright like carrot top orange, which then instantly makes you freak out and immediately grow it. You just
I love how she pointed that out, and that is absolutely true, especially if you have like light colored hair and you use, pure henna, which gives you that natural red to orange red color. And sometimes like I'll have, consumers call us, and they were like, well, we're using your jet black and we did the first step and they used pure henna. It's red and orange, so they're panicking. I was like, no, please don't panic. Use the indigo powder and it will darken. Now in her case, what she was explaining is that she, just using the pure henna, obviously you're going to get that red orange color, and that's what the color is. But a second application always does the trick. And mixing it with coffee.
just did. Hence the name Orange Panic. But what I learned pretty early on about henna is that it does take a while to process. So the color that you see initially when you wash it out of your hair is not the color that it necessarily will be after a few weeks once you've washed, and that the hair color has had time to essentially like oxidize. The other thing I will say is that I don't exclusively use henna. I have dyed my hair with multiple things besides henna. I've used professional grade hair dye, I've used stuff from Sally's, and I've also used box dye, which I'm probably going to be doing to my hair in a couple months' time. Don't yell at me. I know I can hear you screaming. It's okay.
No, please don't.
We'll see. So henna is obviously not my only go-to, and it's not that I'm against chemical hair dyes. I just like having something in between my other hair dye colors to kind of act as not only a hair dye, but a hair mask. After I use henna in my hair always feels really soft, it feels really healthy, and it acts as a conditioner as well. There are a lot of stigmas and rumors about henna, some of which are true, and some of which are kind of not really the case. The first one being is that you can't dye over it. Now, before anybody comes for me, I've heard many horror stories of people going to the salon and not telling their stylist that they have henna in their hair. The stylist goes to bleach it and it goes green, or it literally melts off their head. Now, chances are the henna that they were using was not pure organic henna. This only would happen if you were using a henna with metallic salts.
Yes. So absolutely great that she pointed that out. You want to make sure the henna you use does not contain any metallic salts. And that's what actually happens, because we do have a lot of people who are like, okay, you know what? I tried henna. I don't think it's for me, because I understand it's a longer process than a box dye that is like 20 minutes versus 3 hours of henna. But they do switch over, and it's absolutely fine. So you have to make sure that the henna that you're getting, it does not contain any metallic salts in it, which is, unfortunately, there's just abundance out there, and it's just wrong. And another thing I don't recommend is to switching to henna, then chemical, then henna, then chemical, because you're trying to get a healthier, version of hair dye. So, but it's personal choice. I just recommending.
Most henna brands, at least the ones that I've seen, do not have metallic salts or any kind of metals in their product. That, in combination with the bleach, is what creates the reaction in your hair and that scary green color, that scary melting. Now, I'm not a professional, but I will say that if you're going to bleach over your henna, make sure it is 100% pure organic henna powder. And
second thing is, I never recommend bleaching. So with henna, you can only go from light to dark, but not from dark to light. And a lot of people have this question, well, I have dark, I want to get that red. Can I bleach my hair because my hair is dark? And I was like, no, you know what? No, absolutely do not do that, because bleach is very, very harsh. It is like the worst thing you can do to your hair. I mean, it's just ridiculous. What I've seen people who had their hair bleach, and it's just so damaging. So please just don't use bleach at all.
Nothing else. Try to buy henna that says it'll turn your hair black. It's not pure henna. If you're trying to buy your hair dye if you're trying to buy henna that says it'll turn your hair blonde, it's not real henna, okay? The product that I do use does come in a black color. I've never gone near that one. I've never even held that box in my hand, so I don't know what's in that particular product. I just know that the henna that I use from this particular brand just has one ingredient, henna powder. But as a result of these horror stories, obviously henna has gotten a pretty bad name in the hairstyling community. Brad Mondo has famously kind of bashed on it a lot. I think he's since kind of changed his opinion on it. I'm not really sure. I know he put out a video of him using it a while ago. I didn't watch it, so I don't know if his opinions have changed. But in general, that seems to be the opinion from a lot of hairstylists, just because there isn't a lot of information out there. Please do your research before purchasing your henna. Make sure it is the right henna for you. Before I bought the henna that I use, I did a ton of research. I read a ton of reviews online. I watched a ton of tutorials of people using it before I decided that this was probably the right product for me. And the last thing I'll say before we get into the rest of the video is that because henna is an organic leaf powder, it's an organic material, it might look different on you than it looks on me or it looks on somebody else. I already had pre-dyed hair. Some of it was pre-lightened, so I knew that the henna was going to take in different spots differently. But I was okay with that. I just wanted something that was going to coat my hair in red in the meantime before I was ready to dye it again. So just know and accept the fact that just like any other hair dye, you never truly know how it's going to come out on your hair until you do it. But without further ado, if you guys want to see how I dye my hair with henna, keep on watching. So when you open up the box, it comes with this package of henna powder. It always reminds me of matcha, just that like bright green color and that powdery texture. It also comes with some instructions, basically just telling you to do a strand test before you do it, basically saying that henna is different for every.
Make sure you do read instructions for whatever hair dye you buy. It is very important that you do it with step by step, all the details, so you can get the maximum results.
Buddy, and that results may vary. It also comes with a pair of gloves, as well as a plastic cap to go over your head to keep the hair dye in place while you're letting it process. These are some optional tools, some clips, and brushes are not totally necessary. You'll see that I ditched them soon. I always use a plastic bowl when mixing up my henna. The instructions say not to use any metal materials, and that scares me enough, so I won't do it. I know some people say that it really doesn't matter,
No.
but I'm scared, so I don't do that. I've also seen people use a wooden bowl, which I think works just fine. I just had plastic lying around, so that's what I used. Carefully cutting open the package and pouring it into the bowl. Careful, this stuff is very powdery, so it will fly everywhere. You don't want to inhale this stuff. I like to shake it up a little bit just to get some of those clumps out. And here's some close-ups where you can really see that it does look like henna powder. I don't know, it's just kind of cool looking. I like the texture of it. It just freaks me out, but like in a good way. In a separate bowl, I'm adding chamomile tea to some hot water. That's going to help bring out the golden tones.
Yep.
And then I'm adding that mixture slowly to the henna, mixing it all up until you get this brown kind of baby poop texture and consistency. Alrighty, so taking my hair out, you can already see that my hair seems pretty healthy even though it's been previously dyed. It honestly looks pretty shiny here. You can see I do have some color variations. My front pieces are bleached. My ratty ass hair dyeing t-shirt. And then I'm just brushing out my hair super gently. I don't want to be tugging on it because I'm going to be putting it through a lot. You can see that my roots are brown and kind of like my natural color coming through. They're a little bit lightened. I knew from the jump that my hair color was not going to be completely even throughout. I knew that I was probably going to get a little bit of a color variation from my roots to my ends because my ends already had red in them, and then of course my bangs were pre-lightened with bleach. I did have a little bit of an e-girl hairstyle going on for a while. I'll insert some pictures so you guys can see. If you watch my old videos, you'll see it there too. So because those front pieces were already lightened, I knew that they were going to be brighter than the rest of my henna, but I was okay with that. Like I said, I just wanted kind of a red glaze over my head just to get a little bit more consistency than what I was already working with. And here's the mixture once it's sat for a little while. You can see it does oxidize a bit. Taking some Vaseline and putting it around the edges of my face, this stuff does stain really bad, so I just find that this helps a little bit with that. Sectioning my hair off into 2 different sections, and then I just go for it. I started applying with a brush, which you will soon see that I ditch rather quickly. I find that henna is just really, really thick.
So on the roots end, if you've seen from my previous videos, I talk about this. Yes, it's great to use like towards your roots, the brush, but because us ladies have long hairs, you're gonna end up using your hands, which is much faster. Just taking it and doing it with a brush is not feasible. No.
And sometimes it's just hard to manipulate with a brush, and it just ends up being easier to use your hands. Now I'm really trying to coat every single strand here as best as I can. The one thing you will find is that because henna has a muddy texture, it can be hard to coat every single hair strand perfectly. So I just say take your time with it, don't rush. Because it's not bleach or anything, you don't have to try and make sure you're putting it all on your head around the same time. It's true. Slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race in my opinion. Also, don't worry about some of the spots that I'm missing now. I'm going to go back in and make sure I get all my roots using my fingers just to really get it all in there. This is obviously sped up, but the application process itself probably took me about 30 minutes. Like I said, I really take my time with this. I do one half of my head and then the other. Separating into small sections really does help you get each individual hair strand. You don't want to just start slapping it on your head because number one, it's impossible to brush. If you try to brush the henna through your head, it's just not going to work. It's going to turn into a tangled mess. At least that's my experience. It's not cute. You're going to end up ripping a bunch of your hair out. Once most of my hair is coated, I go back in to every single section that I took and just re-coated them as much as possible. The nice thing about a box of henna is that a box does go a long way. My hair is not super long or super thick, so I can get away with using just one box. And it's plenty. If you have super thick or super long hair, you might want to go with 2 just to make sure that you have enough to cover your entire head. Sometimes when I've done this, I've had leftover dye and I just didn't end up using it. But what I find out works best for me is that even if I have a little bit left over, just slap it on your head anyway, really get it in there, kind of massage it a little bit. And you can do that because it's not like a bleach, it's like a dye, so you're not going to be damaging your scalp if you do that. Don't scrub, but just kind of lightly massage it in there. I find that it just kind of helps make sure you get every single strand. So yeah, if you can, just use the entire box. You might as well get paid for it. Also, I'll say that most henna brands that I found are relatively affordable. Usually I can get 2 boxes for about $14, which is not bad considering that a boxed hair dye is anywhere between $7 and $15 at any local drugstore. And then obviously, salon grade hair dyes or like Sally's Beauty hair dyes are going to run you a little bit more. So it is an affordable option, which is awesome. Once the hair dye is all slapped in there, I wrap it up in that plastic bag that is provided in the hair dye kit, and I let it sit in my hair for as long as humanly possible. I've tried many different techniques. I've left it in for just a short period of time, like 2 hours. That doesn't work as well. You'll still get some pigment, but not as much. I've left it in for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I've left it in overnight. Once you hit like the 4 or 5 hour mark, I don't particularly notice a difference between that and leaving it in overnight. I do think at some point you just get to the point where your hair can't be coated by the pigment anymore. So yeah, I usually recommend doing it on a weekend, maybe waking up in the morning, slapping it on your head, going about the rest of your day, making your breakfast, making your coffee.
So she learned how many hours to leave it on over time by using henna. We recommend 3 hours. That is the ideal time. Now, if 3 hours you feel like, okay, after washing it, okay, I left it on for 3 hours, washed it. This is lighter. Next time, you're probably gonna have to do another application, but then, you know, when you do it again, you're probably gonna leave it on for like 4 hours and see how that goes for you. Now, if 3 hours you feel like, okay, I don't wanna go too dark, then yes, 1 hour or 2 hours would be ideal. But then again, like she said, that she tries the different methods and see which one worked for her.
Coffee, just like doing what you would normally do with the hair dye in, just so it can sit as long as possible. Also, I don't recommend leaving it in overnight if you have light colored sheets. Honestly, I don't recommend leaving it overnight at all. One, because it's incredibly messy and you have to really wrap up your head to make sure that absolutely nothing gets on any surface. When I've done henna overnight, I wrap it in a plastic bag, then I usually wrap it in a few more plastic bags, then in an old towel or a t-shirt, and then I put an old towel down on top of my pillow, and then I literally sleep like a freaking zombie. So you don't get a very restful night's sleep. How could you? Also, henna sits on your hair like mud, so it's very heavy. You might wake up with a sore neck. I don't recommend it. Once the henna's been sitting, it's time to go ahead and wash it out. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people say not to use hot water on hair dye because it will just strip it right back out of the hair, which is true. But cold water, in my experience, just does not work to get henna out. And I'll explain. Henna, again, is a muddy, thick texture. And if you ever played in the mud as a kid and you've gotten it in your hair, you know how difficult it can be to get out, especially if any of the dye was exposed to the air. Some of it does dry out and turn into a crumbly kind of texture, almost like when you have a clay mask on your face. So I recommend using like warm, slightly hot water. Obviously, you don't want to use too hot of water where you're going to burn your scalp, but just enough to get it out. I use a lot of shampoo and a lot of conditioner.
So she's absolutely right. We do recommend rinsing it out with cold to cool water, but I always be like, okay, you know what? I know cold to cool water sometimes can be too much, but don't use like hot water at all. Use like warmer towards like a little bit to the cooler side. Rinse it out. She said she used shampoo. We don't recommend shampoo at all. Conditioner should be used to help rinse out, but not shampoo. Shampoo, you have to wait 24 hours and between 48, and then you can shampoo it.
And I just scrub my head until the water runs virtually clear. In my experience, at that first wash, it's never going to run clear. If you do that, you're going to be in the shower for like freaking 2 hours. And like I said, my hair's not that long and it's not that thick, so I can't imagine trying to rinse this stuff out of really long or really thick hair. That must be a nightmare. Also, be warned that it can and will stain your bathroom, so just be really careful with it. I always rinse it out in the shower just because I find that it's the cleanest method, but just make sure that none of the dye is sitting on any one surface for too long because it will stain. And now for the real reason you guys are all here, the results. And here's the final result. It's not a huge difference, as you can tell. It really just kind of brightened up the
Ooh.
that I already had. You see that my
Sunlight
are still lighter than the rest of my head, which I knew was going to happen. I didn't expect it to like fully coated or look the same. My roots did take the color. It's kind of hard to see in that lighting. My roots were significantly darker than the rest of my head.
Show it in the sunlight.
Than the rest of my head. So I knew that they were going to pull a little bit darker after the dye was applied. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, it's a nice little color refresh in between the different dye jobs that I've done. My hair looks relatively healthy and pretty smooth. It feels pretty good. Even my bleached pieces, which tend to feel a little bit on the drier side, feel pretty moisturized and hydrated and healthy. Okay, the cat's out of the bag, so I can have my hair out now. My hair is not really styled right now, and it's just kind of scrunched. I desperately need a haircut. I feel like this needs some layering, some volume. I need to like kind of get these curls back up again, but in the meantime we'll just ignore that, as well as ignoring my little baby hairs from breakage that I'm trying to grow back out. But you can see that the color still is there. Obviously my roots are starting to go brown again, which is to be expected because I have had a decent amount of root growthage since then. Like I said, I filmed the final color results on February 14th and it's now currently March 1st. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, it was a nice little color refresh in between dye jobs. I'm probably going to be attempting to get my hair closer towards my bang color pretty soon. Thinking about filming that. Might film it, might not. If it's a disaster, you will not be seeing it from me. But after I do that, I'm probably going to go in for a haircut too, because your girl needs some layers because she's looking real flat. My hair used to be a lot curlier when I was in high school, and over the years my hair texture has definitely changed. You're probably thinking, well, yeah, it's because you dye all the time, but my hair texture definitely started changing when I was in college before I started dyeing a lot, so I've definitely noticed that. Obviously, of course, the more you chemically treat your hair, the more your wave and curl pattern is going to change over the years, but I will say that henna is a great tool if you want to dye your hair red. If you were looking for a tutorial on brown hair, I'm sorry, this might not be the one for you. This is just me talking about my...
So as you can see, and as mentioned, henna cannot lighten your dark colored hair. So you saw that the roots, it's not a significant change, but like the rest of the hair, you can see how healthy her hair became, and she did get that shine, that boost of color. And especially whenever she was going in the sunlight, I'm like, please go in the sunlight a little bit more, a little bit more. Like, again, I need to see that in the sunlight because it looks so beautiful, so beautiful. This video, she explained it very thoroughly. Just love how she explained all the details. And, you know, she's been using henna, so she is, you know, coming to that point where she's like, yeah, I know it in my sleep. So this was a great video to watch. Definitely check out her full video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time. Bye.